Birmingham Stallions. This roster also has four quarterbacks, with the addition of Matt Corral joining the roster. In addition to Matt Corral, we have the veteran from the Stallions who played there for the past two seasons, Jamar Smith. We also have Adrian Martinez and Jalen Norton as well on that roster. Matt Corral, he played very well at Ole Miss. So he has, of course, college career wise. And he was also selected in the third round by the Panthers. However, he did suffer an injury in a preseason game. And that was kind of the end of his career in terms of the NFL. He was claimed off waivers. The Patriots got him. But other than that, he has had no real experience in the spring football league, even in the NFL. And so when he signed with the Birmingham Stallions, of course, this is kind of a huge signing in regards to his level of play in college at Ole Miss, in regards to him being drafted pretty high in the third round by the Panthers. He could be a guy that is definitely someone going for that number one quarterback one spot. And it would be definitely interesting to see moving forward if the Stallions end up moving on from Jamar Smith. But Jamar Smith is, I think, going to be their day one starter. I think that he's the guy that, he's played the past two seasons. The first season that he played for the Birmingham Stallions, he led them all the way and won the championship. And the next season, it really seemed like one of the other quarterbacks, Alex Magoo, kind of took over. So he certainly had a little break in regards to leading that team to the championship. But still, regardless, he is knowledgeable of the scheme. He's worked with Skip Holtz, their head coach. So there's a lot going for Jamar Smith being that day one starter. But I would not be surprised if someone like Matt Corral steps in and takes over that starting role from Jamar Smith, because we saw that happen to him with Alex Magoo last season. Alex Magoo is still, I believe, on the Packers in terms of their practice squad. He will most likely not be returning to the Stallions this season. So it will be interesting to see if Matt Corral can actually be a guy who competes for the job with Jamar Smith, and I think he will. But I do think day one, Jamar Smith will be the guy that's going to be walking out on the field, taking that first snap, just based on his familiarity with the team, coaching staff, and scheme. So I think Jamar Smith is going to be that guy.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Jamar Smith is going to have a role with the Stallions this year, but I don't know if you remember this, but the Stallions for their first year and a half or so before Magoo really became like the best quarterback in the USFL last year, they had kind of a quarterback rotation similar to what we talked about with the DC Defenders, where Jamar Smith was kind of like the running guy and Magoo was kind of like the throwing guy, and they kind of put him back in and out like interchangeably. I think what we're going to see is Jamar Smith is going to kind of revert back to that role where he's kind of like the running guy, but sometimes he'll throw. And they're going to have Matt Corral and who was the other quarterback that you said that was on their roster?
Adrian
Adrian.
Martinez.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they're going to have Martinez and Corral compete to see who fills that Alex Magoo type role of being the guy
Yeah.
who throws the ball. Because Martinez was actually drafted in the USFL draft last year as well by the New Jersey Generals. So he
Mm-hmm.
also has been, desired or coveted by some of these spring league football teams, and he has a fair amount of talent with his arm. So I think what you'll see is a competition between Martinez and the God, I cannot talk right now, but that's fine. You'll see a competition between Martinez and Corral who see who will be that throwing quarterback who will take over that Alex Magoo type role to complement Jamar Smith.
Absolutely. And especially with how that scheme was working for them last year and last season in the USFL, it really seemed like they had turned a new leaf from the Jamar Smith type play, quarterback play, and they really started to transition into a more Magoo styled offense, which was a lot more deep throws and then using those legs to get places. And not that Jamar Smith doesn't have a cannon for an arm, he just is less accurate when it comes to the deep ball. And so that being the case, I could absolutely, and you're right, whether it is an Adrian Martinez or a Matt Corral, I think one of these guys that has a bigger arm, much more accurate, he could easily take over for Jamar Smith. So yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting to see this quarterback controversy in terms of like, oh, who's gonna be that day one starter. But I just do think Jamar Smith's gonna be that guy, just with his familiarity with everything. But hey, by season's end, it's definitely something to keep our eye on who's gonna be starting for these ponies. Thank you for joining us on the Redzone Rodeo podcast.
If you like football and you like having fun, come on down and subscribe and check out our channel for more videos like this one.
No ifs, ands, or buts. This is the best place for your football news.